Anyway, everybody, my name is Bill Anthony, and I'm an artist. And you're looking at me in the camera, but the real me is here. I take a good look at that. I call this dashing and debonair Bill Anthony. Anyway, remember this. My face you don't have to remember. So, let's start with a joke. How about the one about the WASP? How do you define a liberal WASP couple? They'll let their daughter go out with a Canadian. And another joke, I know David likes jokes. Michael Jackson likes to have sex with 28-year-olds. And why is that? Why does Michael Jackson like to have sex with 28-year-olds? Because 20. That's a lot of them. Now we'll go into my secret desires, now that I've got a platform here to yak about. Things happen to me that are so strange that if you tell somebody about them, they probably won't believe you. Or if you put them in a novel, that would be, they would say, this is bullshit. Yeah. At any rate, here are two things that I know about. One of them happened to me in college, at Yale, and there is a fellow, he's a friend of my roommate, Tom. He was a roommate of my friend Tom, I don't know his name. And he would disappear from campus every now and then. And where did he go? Did he have a boyfriend? Did he have a girlfriend? Was he on drugs? Where was Tom's roommate? And believe it or not, the guy went to the big hotel in town in New Haven and would ride up and down on the elevator. That was his big thrill, riding on the elevator. So you people that live in New York, you can realize that there is a thrill there available to you all the time that you can always take advantage of. Another situation like this is even harder to believe. I was in the Army, and in the Army you get lined up in a platoon formation, and that's 4 rows of maybe 10 men each, all lined up, perfect order. And there's one guy in our squad, that's 40 men, and he did not want to be in one of the lines. He was insistent he did not want to be in one of the lines. And it turned out the reason was that one of the guys further down the line he wasn't fat, but he was a little plumpish. And this guy I was telling you about just did not want to be in a line, look down the line and see this slight belly sticking out there. Again, he put that in a novel and nobody would believe it. Hope everybody believes this for me. But anyway, that's something that someone should write a book, go around asking everybody of these events which couldn't be believed, and make a book out of them. Now, let's see, where were we? Oh, David wanted me to talk about my style, the development of my style. Back in the 60s, I taught a conservative figure drawing class, how to draw a hand that looked like a hand, and so forth. And I was good at it. And it was a class of beginners. They made these terrible mistakes. They made heads too large, arms too small, torso like a sack of potatoes, no difference between the pelvic cage and the rib cage, legs too small, fingers like tiny breadsticks or whatever the hell they are. And I put all these boo-boos together and I made a figure, which I put on the, drew large and put on the wall of the classroom. And I think the students learned a lot from it and they thought it was funny. And I did many versions of this thing. And I finally turned it into a how to draw book. And did I say I was teaching at a small commercial art school in San Francisco. At any rate, I took the book to New York, the manuscript to New York, and immediately found publishers. Reinhold wanted to publish it in Dover, and finally I went with Crown Publisher, and they put out the book. It's called A New Approach to Figure Drawing, and Then it was published in England, and again back here in the United States. And it was pretty successful. And at the same time, I had a style I called somewhere between Larry Rivers and Francis Bacon. And I was drawing this style. I did mostly drawings, a few tiny paintings. And I couldn't sell them. I could give them away to museums. A lot of them are in museums, like the museum in Worcester, or the museum in San Francisco, so forth and so on, Cleveland. But at any rate, that was my first style. And then I developed my second style from my bad drawing that I'd done for the How to Draw book. And for a while I was doing two drawings at the same time, which was not any fun. I didn't know what the hell I was doing there for a couple of years. Finally, I resolved to work only in the style derived from the bad drawings. And I had a lot of success with that, a lot of shows, and did 3 more books in that style, published by small publishers with big grants from people with a lot of bucks. And that worked out very well. And then my career seemed to center on Europe. It's just that I was having better luck with dealers in Europe than I was in the United States. And in Europe, it just happened that it boiled down to Denmark. So I show mostly in Denmark now, and very little in the United States. It's worked out well, and he shows my work there. I've had 6 shows there in Denmark, and we'll be having another one soon. And also I'm having a show in Croatia. They have a big new museum there, a Museum of Contemporary Art in Zagreb, and I'll be having a show there. So, at any rate, all my work has been small, and it's, if I worked big, I always figured I'd have a better career. I mean, that's the coin of the realm is large paintings for painters, but my work is small. They did a book on me recently, and the guy that wrote the introduction said my work was tiny. I was surprised at that word, but anyway, that's the word he used, was tiny, and I guess he's correct. I've done very few, I've done maybe half a dozen or 10 paintings bigger than 3 by 3 feet, and that's not enough. Better than that, my career has been 40-some years, and that's just not enough large paintings to get anywhere with them. But I've had some nice shows, nice experiences with the smaller works. And again, a lot of them are museums, not just my early style, but I have a fondness for getting my stuff in museums, and I approach museums, and half the time they take them into the collections. So that's been very gratifying. My career hasn't been for money, otherwise I wouldn't do that, give the work to museums, and I would paint bigger. But anyway, it's been pretty good. Let me talk about my background. I'm half Croatian and half Wasp, and I like to joke about the situation with my Croatian side of the family, why I am not a fanatic Jesuit priest. My grandfather came from Croatia, believe it or not, in 1850, and came to California in 1851. He was born in 1827, again, believe it or not, and right at the time of the gold rush, and he made money there and sent away back to Croatia for send bride, and he got what I call a cap. You've heard of a Jewish American princess, a Jap? Well, she was became a Croatian American princess, and well, she died way before I knew her. But at any rate, she was something, and she came to the United States, to San Francisco, expecting to continue her existence as a Catholic, and found the church was dominated by Irish, and they didn't, as non-Irish need apply. So her Catholicism went down the tubes a little bit, and my father was not raised a Catholic, much to speak of, in spite of his, well, his father wasn't much of a Catholic either, as far as I could tell. At any rate, so I have the Irish to thank for not being raised a Catholic myself, and I always say I'd be a Jesuit fanatic if it weren't for the Irish people in San Francisco in the year, I suppose she arrived around 1875, something like that. Anyway, on to my other side of the family. My mother's side were Presbyterians mostly from Scotland, and a lot of Scottish people were coming to the United States to just to avoid the poverty in Scotland. And one of my ancestors was a Scottish Presbyterian minister, and he came over here to get him back to the fold. There were too many Presbyterians here in the United States that were going to other churches and other denominations, so they sent him here. And another Scottish ancestor was a cousin of Robert Burns. And at any rate, they were here, and my ancestors fought in the American Revolution, and one of them made the first cannon in the United States made for the American Revolution. That is, they were looking for cannon. Of course, they had a lot of cannon from the Brits, captured from the Brits, but they wanted some made, and he was a sicklesmith. But believe it or not, he was in a position to make small cannon, so he did that for Washington's army. And then a lot of my ancestors fought in the American Civil War, and I really don't know much about them. I know one of them was in the Andersonville prison, the famous prison, and another one had just fought in the Battle of Peachtree Creek in Georgia. And it's just dopey what curious facts you know. All I know about him is that he, after the battle, they had some eggs. They wanted to fry the eggs, and they didn't have a frying pan, so they turned over a tombstone, evidently a thin stone tombstone, and made a frying pan out of that and fried their eggs. Now that's all I know about this ancestor. So, anyway, I am those mixtures, and I have a wonderful wife who is Jewish. So, but we get along fine. My theory is that people really don't think much about their religions anymore. I shudder to think if it was 100 years ago there'd be problems, but we don't have them. And let's see. On to theories. I have some theories. One of them is that there's a lot of great art being done now that gets no recognition because it's confined to the category of commercial art. But you get people like Robert Osborne or Austin Briggs or Barry Blitt. I mean, these people are marvelous artists, totally marvelous. Thurber would be another. You would see their work more in the museums and in galleries, so forth and so on. But it'll take more than a century to get people to realize how great they were. Well, Rockwell is getting that position now, but give it time. And these people I mentioned, and a score of others will, or I think should be at least, categorized with fine art. I mean, they're just totally marvelous. I don't put myself in that category because my work is shown in galleries and museums, blah blah blah. At any rate, I have some other remarks here. I have a secret passion. I like to listen to a radio program in the middle of the night. I have a habit of waking up in the middle of the night, and the program is called Coast to Coast, and it's about New Age stuff, mostly pretty wacky. And it's about UFOs, unidentified flying saucers. And they come on with these, insane theories. And the guy that runs the program never argues with anybody, no matter how nutty they are, unless he gets somebody slandering somebody. But at any rate, typical is the assassination of Kennedy. This guy has a theory. He says that the military has these warehouses filled with little green men and their flying saucers and so forth and so on. And for some reason, the military doesn't want to open these warehouses to the public. And Kennedy was determined that these warehouses should be open to the public. He had enough years, he had almost 3 years to do it, but he didn't do it. But anyway, the idea was that he was going to open these warehouses in spite of what the military wanted. So they killed him. The generals killed him because he was going to open these warehouses. And you hear these nutball theories, and all you can do is laugh. I mean, they're terrific. Another one is the Nazis after World War II. They all hopped into submarines, and there happens to be a lush green area in the Antarctic, and they're all down there in this beautiful pasture with cows and crops and everything, happy in the Antarctic. Because airplanes just haven't located this oasis, but anyway, they will. And then they can get in there and punish the Nazis for being Nazis. And they have distance viewing. You sit there and twiddle your thumbs, and then your mind can see things elsewhere in the world. And there was some talk of, on this program, of the leading distant viewer of locating the recent Malay plane that was missing, probably down in the Indian Ocean, whenever. So they were leaning on this guy to do it, but for some reason he didn't get around to locating the plane. And my very favorite of all these is when there's a guy, he was a very angry guy. Most of these people aren't angry, they're just come on with their theories. But this guy, he was talking about there being big feet, whatever you call them, in every state in the Union. And there's been a huge cover-up of the existence of these Bigfoots, and he is mad as hell. He's not going to take it anymore. So, more power to him. Now, we'll close with one more joke. This is about a census taker, and he's taking the census in a large apartment building. The lady came to the door and he said, "Lady, who lives here?" And she said, "I live here with my husband and 6 kids." And he said, "Lady, how old are you and your husband?" And she said, "I'm 35, my husband is 40, and here are my 6 kids." And he said, "How old are they?" And she said, "These 2 here are 3, these 2 here are 5, and these 2 here are 7. And he said, "Gee, lady, do you mean you have 2 every time?" And she said, No, sometimes we don't have any." End of rant. About my self-portrait that I showed at the beginning, you got to remember that George Bernard Shaw or what the hell is his name? Oscar Wilde said, "A mask is more revealing than a face." So take a look at that self-portrait again. That's more revealing than just my face. And David, thanks. This has been a great opportunity, and I appreciate it. Finally, the end of my talk.